What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guests are an entrepreneurial duo who have together built a modular, design-forward property built for the next generation of conscious travelers. They blend passions for architecture, sustainability, and hospitality. They're the co-founders of Reset Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ben Uyeda and Adam Wininger. Welcome, guys.
Nailed it.
You did it.
Nailed it. Couple of tricky names.
Yes, but the Gur is the one that got me.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to mess up my last name.
I'm really excited to have both of you on here because I've been very involved in the Entrepreneurs Organization and other groups that involve going on retreats with a facilitator, going deeper as a team, whether corporately or a bunch of other entrepreneurs. And it seems to me that your vision of Reset Hotels is a chance to reset, great name, but also kind of dig deeper into our consciousness to be more conscious about what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing it. And I can't wait. I'm very excited to talk to both of you about this. But before we get into the why and the how and the what, if you could please share what hospitality means to you and why you went on this journey. So we'll start with Ben, and then we'll move our way to Adam.
So I've always thought of hospitality as the craft of the welcome, and craft is the critical word for me. I come from a background of not just design, but also fabrication, woodworking, metalworking, etc. And what I love about craft as opposed to art is there's repetition, there's incremental improvements. You're not always trying to have this grandiose vision. Sometimes you're just trying to get your stitching right and your dovetail joints really tight. So I think when I think of great hospitality, no matter the price point or location, it's where that sense of craft really exists, where you can tell that they've put thought into the origin of the idea, but the repetition just makes it better and better, and the seasoning gets deeper and deeper.
Love that. And something that resonated with me there, I was at the hospitality design show in Vegas in May, I believe. And now it's going to kill me. I can't remember who said this, but they were talking about luxury. And he was saying, luxury is not about the chair. It's about the stitch. So for you to get into that right there, I need to find out who said that because I want to have them on here too, because that was just fantastic.
It's a great observation. It's about the depth, right? Because at the surface level, a lot of people have the same suppliers, same manufacturers. Here's the design. It goes overseas to a factory. It gets sort of produced. And where we actually see differentiation is in process and craft.
I love it. All right, Ben, your turn. Adam, your turn.
Hospitality to me is it kind of comes back to why we named the hotel Reset, but I think it's important from a hospitality standpoint to really think of how you want the person to feel when they're leaving or when they, receive the experience that you gave. That's how we came up with the name Reset, because I wanted someone to feel reset when they leave. But I think good hospitality is just keeping in mind of how you want that person to feel during and after the experience. And, usually they come in feeling a certain way and they'll leave feeling a different way. And you're really the one in charge of that. So yeah, it's, different feelings for different hospitality experiences, but staying really mindful of that. And is the guest going to feel good or are they not going to feel good? Is the food going to, give them a good experience or not?
What I love about what you said there is that it's really about the craft and the craft of the experience, because most people don't, when they leave the comments on whatever social media or whatever comment site, it's about that repetition and striving for excellence. Because usually when they leave those comments, you've either hit it out of the park and changed someone's life, right? And they feel compelled to take a moment and share their incredible experience, or you've done something terribly wrong. and the wheels came off the bus. And I really appreciate, and we missed like the general middle, but if you're really honing in on the craft and really focusing on this experience, I think that the middle of the distribution curve, I think that's obviously where the largest opportunity is. And based on that, like the middle of the bell curve and your niche at Reset Hotels, and either one of you can take this, what's your ideal guest or group that would come stay with you? And has that evolved since the first time you had the idea before you broke ground?
Yes. So I would say from a business standpoint, definitely midweek group bookings is like, I didn't realize when I first started how fundamental that is to a hotel's business. And I think every hotel owner I talk to now is like, yeah, that's the money. Transient on the weekends, not a concern in Joshua Tree. But I think, if I could do it all over again, I would have kept that more in mind from the beginning. I mean, we did include conference rooms. We have a great, facility to do that. But yeah, I don't think I realized how valuable that sort of midweek corporate retreat or a wellness retreat is to a hotel, because it's, the opportunity, the cost of that is substantial.
And Ben, how about you?
Same, right? Like, I think this is kind of like the strength of Adam's and I's partnership over the years is this. I always say that we didn't design one hotel, we designed about 30. As the facts on the ground kept changing, we learned this kind of like, oh, we got to do this sewage treatment plant, we got to do this, or now we got to focus on that kind of midweek group booking. And I think what it's kind of taught me is, one, you got to be really flexible, and your initial ideas are sort of focused on this generic idea of sort of brand and demographic and those things. But as you get more into sort of operations, you start seeing where there's sort of natural holes based on the sort of time of week, time of year, et cetera. And you're really trying to build everything to be a little bit more robust. I think what's kind of interesting about our approach is, sure, the hotel's done. We have our certificate of occupancy, we're open, but the building hasn't stopped. Like Adam and I were just on a call earlier this week where we had a whole list of new projects ranging from building out that event space to adding new features like an experiential art park. So I think that's the part that is unique in our partnership and unique in how this hotel will evolve over time. When people ask me what the best time to kind of come see the hotel is, like right now, because it's going to be different the next time you come. And we're working on some event spaces to accommodate that quick observation that Adam made. And then we're also working on some experimental art, as well as adding a sauna, which is basically what my day is tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. Infrared or traditional?
Infrared.
It's infrared,
Nice.
but it's actually hot. A lot of infrared saunas don't actually get hot. This is actually like 190.
The great thing about saunas at Joshua Tree is you get a lot of preheating from the sun.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. So for me, the first concert I ever went to in my entire life was U2's Joshua Tree in 1987, I believe, at Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands. And then, so U2 has played an important role in my life experience. It's just, they're just awesome. And just having that incredible first experience. But then having gone to school in Southern California from New Jersey, going out to Joshua Tree was like a rite of passage or a pilgrimage for me in a sense when I was older. And I've had some incredible experience. For those of you who haven't been there, it is like a biblical and profound place. And I don't know if that's just because I'm carrying the weight of my U2 infatuation with me. But bringing it back to that bell curve of customer and experience, if you were to look at the one, like the best feedback that you've gotten since you've been open, like those like transformational experiences, what are they, and how much of it has to do with the set and setting of where you are?
I think one of the ones I've gotten, and we recently had a creative director from Hypebeast, which is sort of a, kind of a very new media company, huge audience. And these people get invited to so many cool things. And so we were very nervous. This is a very important guest. We wanted to have a great experience. So they do a great review and a great sort of post to their massive audience. And one of the things he sort of brought up that I thought was that brought me back to some of the first conversations that Adam and I had sort of looking at this vast piece of land was how nice it is to have a sense of emptiness, right? We're at the most overstimulated time that humans have ever been in. We have so many calories, so much screen time, so many things trying to compete for our attention. And when you think about our proximity to this very big LA market, one of the best assets we have is actually just the openness, a sky where you can actually see stars at night, unopened, like these views that you open the gate to your private courtyard, which is basically an outdoor living room. You see the mountains of the national park for just hundreds and hundreds of, well, maybe even almost half a mile. And that is kind of what's missing, I think, for even the most affluent in kind of their luxury condos and urban life, is that sense of space and openness. And I think that's what, when Adam discovered this piece of commercial land, which is another thing we're really proud of, that we kind of developed this the right way. We were just like kind of standing in the middle, being like, this is so big. And it feels different when you just have that distance all around you.
Love it.
Yeah, I think the moment that's made me smile so far as an owner was when I was just at the pool and I just saw like a guest there, because we've been on this site for a long time, so it's still weird for me to see people I don't know there, because it's like, look, who are you? Because we just opened, and they're like, what do you mean I booked here, right? But I saw these two women. One of them had like a floating thing in the pool, and she just had her head back in the pool, in the sun, with a cocktail in her hand. And I was like, she's resetting. I saw that. I was like, that's exactly what we're going for. That, like, because people need that, right? They need those moments. It's kind of like what Ben was saying, like quality of time, and is becoming more valuable. So, just take, even if it's just 10 minutes of just your face in the sun with a cocktail, floating in a pool. I mean, it's those little moments that I think people kind of come out here for. And like from a guest standpoint, when a guest leaves saying they feel different, they feel refreshed, that gets me excited.
So one of the things, so you gave the hype beast example, and then the visual of what a reset looks like, that guest. But you said earlier, like the real moneymaker for you guys could be that midweek travel, right? And to me, a lot of that, one of the things you've geared up towards is this kind of retreat, leadership retreats, corporate retreats, resetting together in a group situation. And to me, especially with leadership, that seems like right on the money for midweek, right? Especially if you're geared to that, because the people who are working together want to be home on the weekends with their friends and family, and then they can do their reset in the middle of the week. I also have recently gone on some retreats and just talked to a facilitator that does group retreats, leadership retreats. And it seems like for people who facilitate these group retreats to reset and think about life differently and have a different experience, they're starved for location and setting. So moving beyond those two individuals, what are some great examples so far, and what's your ideal group retreat for a group reset?
I think one of the things that's really interesting is you think about the landscape of all the properties that are out there within like 100-mile radius of our property. And so Palm Springs is about an hour away. They have tons of conditioned meeting space, every kind of ballroom you can imagine. But when I talk to some of these event planners, they're looking for distinction. And in many cases, they want things to leave a more distinct and memorable imprint or flavor. So they're less interested often, they still need the bare minimum of the meeting space and the AV equipment and stuff like that. But one ballroom, no matter how nice the property, starts to feel like another one, right? One sort of catering set of options feels like another. And what's really interesting to me is seeing how well some of the outdoor hospitality spaces without the conditioned square footage have done. I've talked to a few groups that have done retreats at AutoCamp, which doesn't have any of this. And they were willing to take a risk just to feel something different, something where the setting itself felt apart from the normal sort of conference or sort of business travel. So I think that that's kind of where we're trying to explore right now is we know we have the distinct feeling. How do we get the the core amenities to make this a fluid event and not just an interesting and unique one.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. I mean, I think people are a little bored of the Scottsdale conference room.
Oh, if that's the Scottsdale.
No one's telling their friend how cool their company retreat was at a Scottsdale conference room or Palm Springs or whatever. You know, it's boring, it's old. I think for companies that want to, you know, for these retreats, like first off, they want to get authentic connection between their employees, and that's best found on like a really cool hike in the national park, or like a cool rock climbing experience, or, you know, a sound bath or yoga class as the sun's setting by the pool. Like that's the moments people are going to want to tell their friends about and their family about, and get excited about and share pictures and remember. And, you know, I think if you're a company booking a company retreat, you want to kind of give your employees those sort of experiences. One that foster authentic connection, and also get your employees actually excited to you know, to share the experience with their friends, because they're not going to tell anyone about the conference room that they went to in some, you know, random city.
We've all been to the conference or the retreat where you start in a big room, the big assembly hall with everyone, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to break out into our small groups. And the small group is just a smaller room that looks just like the bigger room. Here, we're like, we have 180 acres. Let's go for a walk together with that small group of 10 to kind of discuss things as an internal team.
Have you guys ever been to the Independent Lodging Congress events?
Yes, I gave a talk there, the last one in Cavalo Point.
Oh, okay. I missed that one. I was traveling. But one of the things I love about what they do is they have these walk and talk moments where you're going on to an ice cream shop or to an art gallery or something, and you're just walking all together. And it allows for some incredible ice breaking and just getting to know someone while you're sweating with them. And I can imagine with 180 acres, it's just unbelievable. So, and can it be like, can you also do things like like if you're on safari, you can set up drinks and tables and just chill out, or beanbag somewhere out in the middle of the desert?
We fully intend to do all that. Just, yeah, creating like little moments of surprise for people out in the desert. So when we do an art park, there's not gonna be a map. It's gonna be trails, and little surprises for people as they kind of walk around and discover things. I think it's a way better experience than, like, you know, knowing you're going somewhere rather than kind of being surprised by it. It's like two different things.
I like to think of it as Halloween versus birthday party, right? Both are great. Both are like things you get really excited for as a kid, but they're different. And I think most people approach events only through the lens of birthday party, centralized around one sort of thing, all one room, big cake, presents, etc. Halloween is so interesting because there's this adventure sense, the sense of discovery. And that's how we've really been thinking about this park and that 180 acres of land. Okay, we set up a few hammocks here, a few little, like a cool little vibey seating area, maybe an outdoor grand piano that eventually fades into oblivion as the desert sort of reclaims it. These sort of surprise and delight moments that are not on this linear path that makes you feel like a tourist, but actually feeling like you're in this rich landscape where you're kind of directing your own adventure. That's why Halloween's so fun. And if you think about it from a business standpoint, I grew up in a great sort of suburban neighborhood, and I would think about how much fun we had on Halloween versus how much it cost all the households. Like, they created so much joy for all the kids in the neighborhood, and each house only had to contribute like $4 for, like, you know, a big bag of candy. That was back in the day. I'm dating myself. But I think that Halloween idea is also what has really driven Burning Man to be such an interesting thing. And we don't want to necessarily, you know, adopt all the aspects of Burning Man, but it's a shared experience and touch point that Adam and I both have. But there's something there that they hit upon, some sort of concoction that feels very distinct, where people are even willing to go through these immense hurdles and difficulties to get just a little bit of that feeling. And that's something that we're constantly, the great thing about developing hotels, we get to experiment on this stuff on ourselves. So we're constantly, you know, bringing things that we experience back to it and trying to figure out how we can weave it in.
Well, and then with Halloween, as we get older, we can start wearing fishnets and chaps.
Absolutely.
As well. That's funny. When I first moved to New York City in the early 2000s, they had the big Hollywood Halloween parade up and down 6th Avenue, and I was walking with some friends, and I was like, "Wow, people wear like no clothes on Halloween. I never noticed that." And they're like, "Yeah, duh. It's everyone's chance to be trashy."
Miami during Halloween is a sight.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I don't know why I never noticed that before in my life. I guess I'm just like blind.
We've noticed.
Yeah. So we hear about experiential travel. We want experiences. And what I found, and maybe I don't think it's just me as I get older, but whether it's a corporate retreat or a spiritual retreat, or an entrepreneurial retreat, or a learning retreat, for me, the best experiences as I get older are really the experiences inward between my two ears, right? And being inspired and learning new things about myself, uncovering blind spots. How are you marketing your reset to those types of facilitators out there in the world who really excel at that and want to get a tribe together to go inward and learn new things about themselves and others?
Yeah, I think Joshua Tree is one of the more spiritual places in the world. It feels like you're on another planet. There's definitely an energy here. It's pretty clear to people that come here that there's something going on. And yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking to do inward work, Joshua Tree is an amazing place, amazing backdrop for it. Ben kind of touched on the idea I think that people love of the desert as well is it just feels like an empty canvas, like a blank canvas. So it kind of creates a lot of space for you to go inward because there's not any real distractions. And if you kind of start with those two things, like, okay, I do want to have an experience in the desert. I want to go to Joshua Tree. There really aren't any places right now. I think we pretty much built the first one where you can host a large group and have indoor and outdoor activities. So, if you want to do kind of like a indoor sound bath in the middle of the day when it's a little hot out, you can do that. You want to do the sunset yoga, you can do that as well. But I think the scale of what we built is unique here. I mean, there's tons of gorgeous Airbnbs, but you just can't host, substantial groups there. It's definitely great for like 10, 15 person kind of retreats, but.
And there's a lot of those purveyors out here, right? I mean, Joshua Tree attracts a disproportionate number of artists, creatives, sound bath practitioners, yoga teachers, and things like that. So the talent pool is deep. I think what's sort of interesting from a communication and marketing challenge is when you have this kind of very distinct culture, like you do in Joshua Tree, communicating that to people that are in LA that are kind of aware of these things is one thing. I had a bunch of content creators from the Midwest come, and I was trying to explain to them what a sound bath was. So I think that's one of the sort of intriguing things that we're going to face is California culturally is different than other parts of the country and certainly internationally, but it has a great brand. There's a high desirability, and it's often on the leading edge, particularly things in health and wellness. People are experimenting here first, and then they become sort of common around the world. So I think what our sort of challenge is to bring in these people, find the right ones, think about how Reset can serve as a platform for these kind of experiences. And I think, and then knowing where to kind of invest in the infrastructure for them. We've all seen certain trends in these spaces kind of come and go over the years. So we want to really think of ourselves as a platform where we can integrate with the sort of dynamic people of that moment that are on the cutting edge without sort of overbuilding, a great example would be, I feel like there was like a collab between W Hotels and like a spin class at the time, right? That's been revamped into something else. Maybe they turned it into SoulCycle and now they have to convert it into something else. So I think that's where we want to be really flexible and responsive is look at where that pulse is, bring in these people that can bring in their sort of audiences and followings, and us try to stay as a really stable platform for hosting all these things and evolving over time.
refresh my memory. How many rooms do you guys have?
65.
65. So one of the, and that's a little bigger than my experience. One of the, a really surprising experience I had recently at a retreat center. It was between Tulum and, I don't know, Playa del Carmen or something there. And they probably had 12 or 15 rooms, and included in that, there were probably just like 8 or 10 casitas maybe, and some other kind of big yoga central thing. But we went with 4 different families and their kids. So we had little kids from like 12 to 18, or maybe 10 to 18, I forget. But it was cool. We just wanted to go to a place that we could just all meet and hang out and not have distractions of like discos and all this other stuff. We could just be there, be together as families and catch up. But what was interesting is they run a lot of retreats through there. So, and I actually did a podcast with one of the guys who helped build it and runs it. But they had a Temescal, like a sweat lodge, and they did ice bath, and we did breath work. And we didn't go there with the intention of doing it, but they're like, hey, do you want to get your kids doing this? And you could do it as families. And it was awesome because I'd done all that stuff on my own, but it was really cool to do it as a family with my kids because they just think I'm weird doing this stuff. But to be able to do it with them without like saying, hey, we're going to do this, and having them think it's weird the entire time. Have you had families go and go there in groups yet?
I think a couple. I mean, we've only been open for a few weeks, but I love that insight, right? And we've talked about this, right? This idea of the reset isn't just going back to your factory settings. It might be refreshing so you can introduce something aspirational that's just sort of eluded your sense of discipline or daily routine so far, right? So
it's a software update.
Exactly, right? So it's like trying these new things that you're interested in incorporating in that setting is a great way to make a memorable start. One of the things we're doing is we're partnering with different authors. They got a book coming up, because starting a book, particularly like a really insightful one that might lead to a little self-improvement on vacation, is amazing. Because it's like you got a little bit more free time. It's like sitting right there on the shelf. Books are a great kind of addition to decor that's functional. And what better time than this new environment, clean slate, to try to introduce that cold plunge or that sauna routine or a new sort of fitness, or even just something simple like getting your 10,000 steps in.
Which is also that journey inward too. It's like you're facilitating that look inside and the software update.
Yeah, we with the books, we had a discussion on the team of whether we get a bunch of different books and put different books in different rooms, or if we just get the same 3 or 4 books in each room. And I actually like the second one better, getting the same book, because I realized at one point there were 2 people that had the
Rick Rubin one.
Yeah, the Rick Rubin book.
Oh,
The Creative Act, or was it Creative Way of Being, something like that. And there were 2 people at the pool both reading the same book, and I was like, oh, they should chat. It's
like a mind meld. Again, it's like going inward and then a shared conversation.
Good conversation starter. And then also we could be more intentional with, I'd like to see, I mean, maybe the ops team won't like for me to say this, but I'd like to see the books kind of disappearing from the rooms. I don't know how we're going to manage that, but it's good. Like, you want someone to like get a little glued to it. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it's a really cool opportunity to kind of guide people a little bit, like suggest certain books to people to kind of get their mind going and get started on a reset. Like another thing that we put in is, I've always loved thank you letters. I love writing them. And like, for me, a feeling of reset is like, it's a really light feeling. Like, you feel really like there's a lightness to it of, just, yeah, clear desktop, however you kind of want to put it. But you just feel a little bit energetic and light. And I think that's really like the feeling that I want guests to have. And that comes from doing work on yourself. For me, one of the big ways I do that is like, I took it from, I forgot his name, but Jesse Itzler talks about this. So he does thank you notes. So I started incorporating that, and it was like the best feeling for me when I did that. This year I wrote like 50 of them, and I just got this incredible light feeling after. So we incorporated that into the hotel.
Do you use his big ass calendar?
I bought it, but I haven't.
I did that last year. It was great. I forgot to buy it again this year, but shout out to him. What's so cool about it is he's all about being intentional about our lives, right? And thank you notes have been a really important part of my life and success. Yes, it's a way of expressing gratitude, but more for me, it's like when I write a thank you note to someone, whether in regular life or business life, it's allowing me to pause, take a minute, and go inward and get in touch with that gratitude. And it's almost like you speed up by slowing down and taking that pause. And I think if you got a cool thank you note kit and be like, hey, that's freaking amazing. Hey, everybody. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. And one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info.
That's what we're doing. So I think the first thing that guests gets when they get in, it's not like a postcard or anything like that. We're actually giving them a blank thank you card to write a thank you to someone, you know, a loved one or a friend or whatever. And then we have a system at the hotel where you can put it, we give them an envelope and a stamp, and you can leave it at the front desk or leave it in your room, and we'll mail it for them. So we'll send, they can start their reset by like thinking of someone they want to thank. And we make it pretty easy for them to kind of, you know, they don't have to run to the post office and all that to send that thank you note. But I was like, what better way to start your reset than to like, you know, thank somebody else and like write something down and send it to them. And getting a thank you note is just the best feeling in the world.
It is so awesome because then not only do I give myself a gift of writing it, because I love writing them. It also when that person opens them, it's been on like a journey. Maybe the corners are bent, like it's got the stamp from wherever. And it's like, it's taken a lot of effort to get it to that person. And then they get to take a moment and get out of themselves and go inward and think and connect and get in touch with their inner self.
And what we were talking about earlier with the craft, right? Where you can kind of perfect something over time, or the Will Guidara, I think it was how you pronounce the last name. He talks about an unreasonable hospitality where, you know, a magician's trick seems like incredible when you see it, but they've been practicing that for thousands of hours, and you know, their sleight of hand is mastered, and they've done all this work behind the scenes to make it look like magic there. But really what it is like, and our team talks about this a lot, is like, what are things that we can just kind of get in the routine, in the system, and like make it really easy for somebody to send a thank you note, where, you know, it's like creating these little moments of magic, like pretending that we're the magicians, and like, what's something that we can just rinse and repeat so many times that it feels like magic to the person there, but for us, it's been systematized and it's pretty easy. So that's, you know, I think that kind of goes back to good hospitality, is like, can you create these moments that feel like magic, but you've actually systematized it on the back end, you know, like a magician does.
I have a good Will Guidara story. So I used to go to the NoMad Library bar all the time my office was across the street. And I got to know his team and him, and I would just take meetings there if I had to get out of my office. And when Unreasonable Hospitality came out, I interviewed him just before on this. And then I was at a dinner, and a client of mine from Utah was in town, and she had the book in New York City in her purse. I was like, oh my God, you're kidding. I just interviewed him. And while we're at the table, I emailed him and I said, hey, can I come by your doorman later tonight, and can you sign it to Susanna?
Oh, that's cool.
And he said, yeah, sure. So the next morning I went down to the doorman, I gave it to her. We just talked about it in May, and she was like, oh my God, that was so incredible. But again, that's like that thank you note moment, right? Yeah. It's a frictionless, because I had his contact info. It was no big deal to him. I just said, hey, can you do this? It's the same thing as providing someone with a thank you note and the stamps. That's a genius idea.
You're creating magic for the person writing it, the person receiving it. And then on our end, from, you know, people running the hospitality show, like, we make it really easy for that magic to happen, because, you know, we already printed out thousands of these, and we have the stamps, we have the system, and, you know, we have our GM can go to the post office and drop them off and all that. So it's like, it's yeah, we're looking for more moments like that. Like we're constantly thinking of what are other things that we can do that will feel like magic, but it's, you know, it's been kind of in the it's in the system on the back end for us. So it's not, you know, tons of work every time.
Well, and like with unreasonable hospitality, it all comes down to those customer touch points or client touch points. What are all the times that you actually have an interaction, and how can you inject some magic into it? I remember one of the best dinners I had, definitely top three. I went to 11 Madison Park, which was his restaurant, right? And have you ever been there?
Never.
Oh my God. First of all, the food was awesome, the whole experience. But my favorite part was at the end. I think that it was like cider season or something. So we got some weird cider, which I don't really like, but I drank it. And then they came over and did a magic trick with cards, right? And you're like, wow, that was really cool. And then we're like, hey, can we just keep these cards? And it was two couples. Can we just play hearts or something for a while?
Oh, that's awesome.
And we shut the place down. They're like, yeah, totally. That's amazing. So we just played cards there it must have been a 6 or 7 hour dinner. It was unbelievable, but it went by in a heartbeat. But again, they did those things that let us he gave us a trick and magic, but we also got to do our own magic.
Yeah, I love that. It's like such a fun experience. I'm just like playing cards at the table at a restaurant. That's so cool. Never done that.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I've done it, but usually it's at a bar and it gets very loud, but we kept it.
Not like a 5-star or whatever it is, a 3-star.
Yeah,
Michelin.
it's unbelievable. So one thing, as far as the experience, having 65 rooms and 180 acres, as you guys think about the future and as you're figuring out all the magic you're delivering to everyone and the journeys that you're letting everyone go on, 180 acres it's hard to find spots like that. So as you think of the future, where do you see those other large format places where you can get lost? Or is it more about taking things that you've learned in this new laboratory and bringing it even smaller so that people can create their own magic and go inward?
I think we're going to learn a lot over the next year. We're starting on some of the larger installation projects. And one, this is because we're fans of art and design in general. But two, there's actual real business opportunity here. I think one of the ways that I like to describe it is, if you've driven into Vegas, you've probably seen that stack of like painted rots. And as a designer, it's fine. But as a business opportunity, that thing is blockbuster. That the images of that thing with people standing around them, all user generated content, is reaching billions of eyeballs a year. And that's not an exaggeration. And that installation, you can do stuff like that. And it's not particularly technically hard. You just need sort of a commitment to sort of the artistic vision and a willingness to work at an artistic scale that's a little bit different. But that scale is why there's actual opportunity in this type of installation. There's a lot of cute little galleries in Soho or on Avid Kinney that have like little things that you could buy and put on your wall. But when you look at something the scale of Storm King or the scale of Burning Man, those are actually more rare in this world. And we think there's a great opportunity for those to integrate those experiences that feel grand and make you kind of, question your own sort of identity and place in the world, using some of that land. And then obviously, as we kind of learn on what works well with the existing sort of build out that we've done, we definitely have some room to grow.
I think we'll definitely find out in the next couple of years. I think it's going to end up being an art park with the hotel rather than a hotel with an art park. I think the art park's going to be the main driver of things in the next couple of years. I just think it's so unique and there's not enough of it. I know at one point we had this like golf course company come to us and be like, hey, you get all this land and, should we do a golf course? And we're like, I think there's enough golf courses in Palm Springs alone. Right. No, I think, going back to the feeling of reset, if you kind of use that from like a first principle standpoint of like, that's what we're trying to do here. Art is timeless. And it's throughout history given people that change in perspective that we're really looking to give our guests. And, we're sitting there like, we have all this land, what a unique opportunity. It's very rare that a hotel has this much land. Let's do something that like no hotel's really done, and provide an experience that people don't really get at most spots. For sculpture art, I never liked like galleries and museums. Just it's no knock on them. It's just like my experience whenever I'm there is I'm just reading the placard and like walking, and it's like quiet whispering. Like I just feel like I'm at a zoo, and like the art's like caged almost. I love sculpture art because I feel like I'm on a safari. I feel like like the art's out there in the world. I love seeing art in people's homes. I love seeing like art in real life. And I think creating that kind of like art safari experience, right? Where you don't know what you're going to see, but then you stop and this kind of takes you by surprise, and you keep going, you turn left, like that's what I'm excited by. And I just don't think there's enough of it. And I hope there's a lot more of it, over the next like couple coming decades, just all over the world. I really think that's, in a world of increasing technology and AI and all that, having these like real life experiences with larger than life sculpture art is it's just so cool. It's so much fun. And it's like, yeah.
And it's consistent with some of the initial observations that we made and made us interested in this endeavor, where basically the more people consume digitally, the more they're going to want the opposite of that. And the more high end the opposite of that is going to become. I remember I first moved out to Joshua Tree in 2017, and it was after I saw this graph. It was from 2013 to 2016. It was monthly active users on Instagram, almost perfectly correlated with visitorship to national parks. And I was like, I've been looking for a change of location and kind of moved out to Joshua Tree to build a house. But that was intriguing to me because I'm heavily involved in the creator economy, and the creator economy has grown massively. And attention is this valuable commodity that's bought, sold, and bartered with. But the outcome of that isn't the removal of all things IRL. It's actually the ascension of that to being the highest tier of luxury and aspiration. So the more people are struggling with screen time, the more they're going to want to go to Yosemite, to Joshua Tree, to these amazing places. The more they're like looking at a funny video online, the more they're going to want to see art that has to be seen in real life and is too big and too a mess and has too much of an immersive feeling to be captured in just a video on Instagram alone. So I think those are kind of two of the pillars. We're humble enough to know that nature is the big draw, and we got a great location just like 3 miles from the national park entrance. We're the closest hotel to the national park entrance.
You walk the border of our hotel, it says national park boundary at the edge of our hotel.
So we nailed that location to this unfakeable, permanent draw of human interest. So from there, it's like, well, how do we get an extra stay out of the guests? How do we add some of the things that we can kind of do with sort of art and creativity to kind of extend that experience?
Have you considered, or are you thinking about doing, a lot of bands these days are doing these smaller experiential events. I think like this one band I really like, Goose, they're doing something down in, it's called Gonzo or something down in Los Cabos.
Yeah, David Rodriguez. I met him. He's great. And then I'm supposed to talk to one of their other owners next week or two. Yeah, Gonzo's great.
And have you considered doing that? Do you have the infrastructure to do that, or are you too out in the middle of nowhere, or like what are your thoughts on that?
I don't really know what it is, to be honest. That
Okay.
experience. I've never been there, but if you have ideas, love to
Well,
hear
it's
'em.
basically like music all around, like the band will play in like an intimate setting. Then they have like art installations and a bigger stage, and people come.
I think the discussions that we've had a lot of is thinking about what does the room count that we have, 65 rooms, mean for like an immersive kind of music experience, right? We have enough land where we could throw a massive festival, but the idea of bringing in a bunch of porta potties and doing a smaller version of a Coachella doesn't really sound appealing, right? And when I talk to people and hear their best live music experience, it's often medium-sized act in really intimate venue, because that feels like a unique thing, whereas maybe the huge act in a stadium feels like, well, a lot of people experience that. So I think there's a big opportunity there. And I think from talking to different music acts based in sort of LA, there's a lot of interest because if you're like a DJ or a musician that has like, a following of like 200 to 500,000 on Instagram, you make your living, do it, you tour, but the people that really love you as much or more as the biggest act that they always like. And so there's that opportunity that a big act maybe wouldn't take of being like, hey, maybe this is just a 200 or a 100 person, weekend long experience, but it has a really high price tag. And suddenly those kind of things become interesting to those types of artists. And there's a lot of those artists. So I think this is an area of huge potential, but we haven't really, quite clocked on the infrastructure. Oddly enough, I think the art will segue into this naturally. If we do some of these installations and these things that kind of also be used as stages, you're going to see the creative people. Creative follows creative, right? If you take the step and build the platform and infrastructure, people start coming at you with ideas.
Yeah, there's this other band, Wilco, I really like.
Love it.
They're from Chicago, but they'll go to North Adams, Massachusetts at Mass MoCA every other year, these indoor, outdoor, huge assemblies of art, and just do a concert and have all these other people come in, and you can like go in the museum and like you'll see some people from some other band just acoustically in the museum playing next to some big sculpture. Everyone's chilling. It's pretty rad.
It's a great opportunity because Joshua Tree is a known entity in the music community. I mean, Pappy and Harriet it's
my favorite place to see live performances. Honestly, it's so good.
It brings in, top tier acts like consistently, and often it's just like surprise drop-ins.
Wow. So you're newly open, you're impacting people, you're facilitating these magic moments and journey inward. It's 10 years in the future. Where do you see Reset going? Like, what's your long-term vision?
I think it'd be cool. I don't know if 10 years is it, but at some point in my life, it'd be cool to do a hotel on a different planet or like a hotel on the moon or something crazy like that. Modular lends well to it. And that was kind of like a design backdrop in a way for the team. I mean, Joshua Tree is one of the closest places I found that just feels like you're on a different planet. So, that would be cool one day if I'm just like thinking big and, can wave a magic wand and make something happen like that. Yeah.
I tend to look at some of the other hotels that I've experienced in my lifetime, right? And over 10 years is tricky, right? In my 20s, W Hotel was about as cool as it got.
Totally. I remember that.
I'm sure they had a vision for 10 years and they were really smart people that were executing at a super high level. But I think when I think of sort of longevity and these long distances of times, I tend to think less about brand and more about specific properties that just are so idiosyncratic, but still special and not too weird. Like Post Ranch Inn in Big Sur is always going to be a property that people sort of value, regardless of cultural changes and shifts. Even something like Chateau Marmont is so distinct as a flavor and as a piece of existence. And meanwhile, we've seen brands to various degrees kind of come, have a really great run, create a ton of value, and scale up. But I think, and we're so early in this game, and we're really proud of the brand we're creating. I think it's perfect for this particular moment in time. It's going to do really extraordinarily well. But for now, we have the one property, and it's different. It's special. It's got a great location, and we're just excited about welcoming as many like-minded people as possible.
So do you think the modular, and for those of you who don't know, it's modular. So were they all prefab? Where were they all prefabbed?
They were made in Canada, actually.
And shipped down. So is modular a part of your future visioning as well?
No. There's another, potential property I've looked at that's more of a renovation play. Still nature market, things like that. And it just goes back to like, if we're really just sticking true to the brand, which is giving people that feeling of a reset, you don't need modular for that. You don't need it to be ground up every time. It's like what are the different ways you can kind of provide that experience in different settings? I mean, for me, nature really goes hand in hand with that. So I think it'll be really focused on outdoor areas for the foreseeable future. But no, like there's no attachment to anything other than that kind of like core principle.
Construction types are a means to an end. They're not a goal in and of themselves, right? And I think we've seen other sort of outdoor hospitality ventures actually mistake their means of production with the experience they're providing. And then as they scale, they become more and more common and less unique. And as they scale aggressively, less time and attention goes into site and location, and it seems like a watered down version of their original great vision. So I don't think the type of construction, it's interesting because it gets attention because it's novel and it's unusual. And I love talking about this with construction pros and other developers. And we go through the war stories, and there's no silver bullet. There's no magic type of construction that's suddenly going to make development easy. It's going to be hard. It's going to feel impossible, and there's going to be challenges. The other thing that I think is very difficult to talk about it is there's no counterfactual, right? We kind of have information from other developers and stuff like that. So when I hear people really sort of chest stuffing, like we did it this way and 3D printing is so awesome. I'm like, interesting. I would love to learn more about it. But I think we're in service of creating unique spaces for the guests, and we'll consider any new or novel technology. And we may not always pick the best ones. There's a ton of things we would have done differently with modular in this case. But I think overall, it's important to keep the means of production exactly that. It's a way to do it. It might not be the best, but once you commit, got to finish, and it's going to be hard.
Well, I think like with the nature component, if that's really a heavy part of it, or like a real brand pillar of yours, the further out you get, I think the more and more modular or factory built makes sense, because you can kind of control it. You might not be able to find the people that can do the finer carpentry or build out or framing out in the middle of nowhere, but you can do that somewhere else. The trick is like getting it to connect to the site in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, modular construction method is definitely beneficial for remote areas where labor is not as ready. But yeah, I mean, I think also from a design standpoint, we might do modular somewhere else, but if you're doing a hotel in like a wooded area, the look and feel that we're going for was very kind of like futuristic Mad Max, Joshua Tree, you got to do something kind of like out there, different, little risky. And if we're doing it in some, I don't know, wooded, somewhere in the woods by a waterfall or something like that, that same design won't work there. And I think that's like, a mistake that other people in the outdoor hospitality industry have made is they just kind of take the exact same, cookie cutter unit or whatever. And like, they're like, oh, let's put this everywhere. And it's just I think that each hotel should be designed to their surroundings. And the surroundings should be different unless we're doing a bunch of hotels in the desert and they're all in the same area. So that's more what's guiding us rather than anything else. But modular as a method for a remote area definitely makes sense. Like if you're building on some, remote island somewhere, it's definitely a good method.
Cool. So this has been fascinating, and we'll put up photos in the YouTube version of this. And I'm so excited for you and your growth. If people wanted to learn more about you individually or Reset as a place to go visit and kind of get in tune with your vibe and ultimately write you guys a thank you note for changing the way that they think about hospitality, what's a good way for them to do that?
I think so much of our life has been wrapped up in getting this thing across the finish line and open that going to the reset.hotel Instagram account is like a really great place to start. And I think Adam and I individually are tagged in various places on there, but Instagram seems to be the easy spot, particularly if someone's listening on their phone right now. Just look in that little podcast description and click on over and give us a follow.
Perfect. And we'll definitely put that in there. I really enjoyed this so much. And thank you for helping me look inward in myself
Gotta come out, Dan. Gotta come out. We'll listen to some YouTube. We'll go for a walk.
Sold. And we'll write thank you notes.
Yes.
This has been awesome. Thank you both. I'm very grateful for your time and getting your story out there. And I wish you all the success in the world. And I do hope to come visit soon.
Let's do
Love
it.
to have you.
And thank you to all of our listeners. Without all of you, we wouldn't be able to interview awesome guys like this, living their dreams and executing and building these new concept hospitality experiences. So if this has changed your way of thinking about hospitality, please forward this to someone who you think could benefit. Or if you think of any facilitators, especially all you like EO and YPO facilitators who are always asking me, where's a good place to go? Check them out.